Hey everyone, in this video, we're going to talk about why you should design a website before you build a website. Are you ready? Let's go. So in this video, we're going to answer a question that I received on a video a while ago, which was, why do you need to design something in a program like Adobe XD or Figma or Sketch instead of just going straight into a page builder like Elementor and building it out there? It's interesting because I had a student in one of my classes say almost the exact same thing. And I know that other people online have asked a similar question. If you have a page builder that seems like it works like a design software, why wouldn't you just use that instead of designing something in a design software like Adobe XD? Well, the answer to this question is really about a fundamental understanding of design, and it is core to knowing how to approach web design in the right way. But first, if you're new to the channel, my name is Mark Moran. I am a web designer, have been for over 20 years. I also teach web design at the University of Hawaii, and Akamai Websites is where I help new and aspiring web designers level up their professional and freelancing game. And today, this question is really relevant because it talks about really a fundamental understanding of how UX and UI work in terms of web design. The reality is, if you try to jump to a page builder like Elementor right off the bat, you're ignoring a lot of the processes that are necessary in order to know what you're designing for. I should mention that over on Living with Pixels, Reno has a couple really good videos on this topic, so I will link to those below and maybe put a card up there or something, so check those out. But first, we have to take a step back and look at the bigger picture of what you're building. You see, a website is not just code on a page. It is a solution to a problem. It is a designed solution to a problem, which means you need to understand what problem you're trying to provide a solution for. What problem are you trying to solve? Because if you don't solve these design problems first, then you're ignoring the whole reason why you're building a website in the first place. You know, I had a student ask me a similar question in a class where I was teaching them how to use a page builder after teaching them UI and UX processes in Adobe XD. And he was wondering, why did we go to the trouble of learning Adobe XD and then switch over to some other software to learn how to build a website? Why didn't we just go straight to the website software? And I realized I must have missed explaining something very core and vital to the whole experience of building a website, which is you're there to solve a design problem. So you have to design the solution before you build it. You see, visual design isn't a destination, it's a process. And it's a process that requires iterations and development and changing things over and over and over. And in order to iterate on designs, sometimes you have to adjust things. You have to go back a few steps and redo things that you've done before in a different way. It isn't a linear path, it's an exploration. It's design exploration, not a design destination. And the thing is, the nature of page builder is that they're not inherently iterative. Of course, the exception to this in code is a repository like GitHub, where you can actually iterate on things and go back and change it and branch off new versions. But within page builders, that's not really something you can do. You can't go back to the version of the page you did 3 steps ago and start to revise things from that point forward while still being able to see the versions that you just did. You can't snapshot multiple versions next to each other of a page. And that process is key. Sometimes you need to be able to see the different versions of something you designed so that you can compare and contrast them next to each other and see what works, what solves that design problem. But if you work in Elementor or any other page builder, you only see one version of the page at a time. And you don't really want to be spending all this time designing and building multiple pages. You could have just done that in the design software and it would have saved you a lot of time. And even if this was the only issue, if it was just about the iterative nature of design, that's reason enough alone to use a design software like XD or Sketch or Figma instead of jumping right into the browser. It is vital to design in a design tool. So for example, let's say you build something in Elementor and the client wants to go back 3 versions to see what you did before. They like that one color there, but they want to use it with an image from a different version, and they want to combine the typography from an even different version. How would you do that? How would you even go back and compare those designs? It is a total pain to do that with a page builder, but with design software, it's extremely easy because you have all those versions right next to each other. And it's very easy to show them right next to each other to the client and get their feedback. And it's really easy to swap elements from any one design to another design. And in the long run, this saves a ton of time. The other issue is getting feedback from clients. And it depends on your system for getting feedback, but I've found that the built-in feedback systems that Figma or XD have makes it much easier to get feedback from clients. But here's the point. Elementor is not a design tool. It's a web page building tool. It is very difficult to effectively design with Elementor. Can you do it? Sure, but it's really convoluted and not effective, and you end up not solving the design problem that you're trying to solve for the client. And in the long run, it ends up taking a lot longer to do. I know it seems counterintuitive, but that's the reality of the situation. And believe me, I've tried to go straight into designing in the page builder, but it always comes back and bites me in the butt later. The thing is, design software doesn't have spatial limitations. You can put anything on the screen in any position that you want to. But with code, you have to be very careful about absolute positioning, or relative positioning, or the grid, or all these things that aren't part of the design creative freeing process of using a design software. Being able to easily move things around is so much easier than trying to manipulate the code on the page or manipulate elements on the page. With code, it is a much more free creative process that allows you to design something without worrying about the underlying code of the technology yet. And sometimes you come up with a solution that you would never have come up with if you tried to build it in the page. And a lot of times I notice with Elementor, you start thinking right away about what widget am I going to use here, instead of what's the solution to this problem? How am I serving the user? You get really caught up in the technology and the little things you can pull into the page to make it look cool without really paying attention to whether or not that solves the problem. Maybe you didn't do the wireframes first. Maybe you didn't go through the process of understanding the user persona, all those important UX and UI design elements that are crucial to the process of creating a solution on the web. It ends up becoming much more about the feature and the functionality than it does about the benefits or the goals of the user. And this is a general rule. There's probably somebody out there who's amazing and could just mock up something fantastic in Elementor right off the bat without worrying about the design process, and they just can instantly create the perfect website. But that's not me, and that's not most of the people I know. And if that's you, that's awesome, and I'm jealous, but I'm guessing it probably isn't. Here's the thing. From my 20 years of experience, cutting corners never works. It never works to circumvent the process to get to the destination faster, because the importance of design is the journey. It's not the destination. You have to go through the process to get there. And if you don't go through the process, then you never get there. And in a way, this is really about combating your own laziness. So now I'm not saying you're lazy. I'm saying that this is a tendency, at least I notice in myself, to try and get to the place faster because I don't want to have to go through the work. And I know that there's a grind that I have to deal with in order to design the thing I need to design. Sometimes I just want to get there faster. But really, it's necessary to master the process, to go through the steps. The better you are at designing, the faster your process will be, and the faster you'll get to that destination. But first you have to master the design process and not avoid it. So here it is, long story short, design software is for designing, page building software is for building pages, not designing. The process of design requires iterations, which requires being able to go back and forth and compare different iteration versions. Page builders don't allow for this iterative process. And trying to design in Elementor is really doing a disservice to your client, because you're shortchanging the process by which you're working with them to come up with a solution. A lot of the design process, the UX process, is done with the client. You're talking to them, you're a sounding board, you're providing them with input, they're providing you with feedback, and you're coming to a solution together. And them feeling like they're a part of that process is really important to coming up with a great solution at the end. If you ignore your client's need to participate in this experience, then you're really not providing them with what they need. Here's the thing, your client is your partner, not a customer. Make them your partner in this process and work with them to come up with a solution. Work with them, not for them. And this is really a disservice to yourself, because honestly, you're going to have to go back and redo things anyway, so why not do it right the first time? And if you don't do it right the first time, then you're just hurting yourself, you're hurting your relationship with your client, you're hurting future referrals, you're hurting your portfolio, and everything else. So it's just not worth it. So hopefully that all made sense. I know I was repeating myself a lot.
You're repeating yourself. You're repeating yourself. You're repeating yourself.
But I really want to get the point down that you have to design before you build. Hopefully that was all clear. But that's it for this video. Hey, if you liked what you saw today, please be sure and subscribe and hit that thumbs up and the bell icon for notifications. I have a couple cool things planned, and I'm going to be starting a new project here that I'm going to go through with you guys, so I'm looking forward to that. In the meantime, if you have any questions, be sure and leave them in the comments below. I know before I used to do these questions of the week or the video or whatever. I'm not really going to do that. I'll just ask a question when I have a question. Although I am curious if that made sense or not. If you guys were like, I have no idea what you're talking about, Mark. So let me know in the comments below what you thought of this. Until next time, thank you so much for watching, and stay Akamai.